You're absolutely right, and thank you for that, Kev. That was a great insight into what we're about to see, and there is the mighty Scott Speed. And yes, speed by nature, speed by name, and what a star-studded career he continues to have, whatever he turns his hand to, whether it's Formula E, Rallycross, NASCAR, Formula One. He actually won a competition run by Danny Sullivan back in the day to get a ride at Toro Rosso. Yet,
well, as we're talking about Scott Speed and the Global Time Attack Series, we're actually on our screen here. Perhaps one of the most unique hypercars that's here. We've got this Apollo IE that really is turning heads down in the Velocity Plaza there, because it looks like nothing else you've seen. There are supercars here, there are hypercars here, but this thing just sets itself apart from all of the others. It is stopping people in its tracks. So heading out on track right now. Thought we were going to Global Time Attack, but we appear to just have a couple of the hypercars making their way up through the hills and round the tracks. So a great treat to see this car out on track, and I'd imagine for many people a great treat to see it in person.
well, I'm delighted to say that Jason Deerhart has just joined us. Come on in, obviously from Global Time Attack. Don't worry if you can't hear in your headset. That's no problem. We can hear you clearly.
All right, great.
But welcome again.
Thank you.
Tell us what we're going to see, and we've just been setting it up with an interview that Kev did with Mr. Phillips in his truck, which was very interesting. But he gave us an insight into how it all sets up in terms of the different categories. But tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, well, these guys are about to go out there, and they're going to do a warm-up lap, maybe 2 warm-up laps. The thing with these time attack cars is that they're built almost to the extremity of like a drag race car, where they're really meant basically to do 1 hot lap in a session. So usually our sessions are pretty short, 15 minutes. That's still almost too long. I'd rather almost make them 10 or 12 minutes sometimes, because it really only gives them an opportunity to go out there, do maybe 1 warm-up lap,
So it's like
one opportunity for a hot lap,
you really
a
only get
flyer.
that one chance.
Yeah, exactly. And then a cool-down lap and then come off the track. Not many of the cars are built in the sense where they're not heating up too much, and the tires aren't getting too hot. The engine's not getting too hot. The driver's not overheating, especially on a warm day like today. I think it's 90-something degrees today. It's probably going to be the same tomorrow, so that's also a factor with a lot of these cars.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing that for sure, Jason. I really enjoyed chatting to your guys down there as well. It was good to chat to, Kevin Phillips. We had Gabe as well, and then Robert spoke really well. And the good thing was the 3 drivers that I've spoken to you from Global Time Attack running in 3 different classes: unlimited, limited, and then street. And then you got another guy here in his sort of crimsony red BMW who's running in the enthusiast class as well.
Yes, yes. That's another thing that's unique about this sport is, this is a showcase this weekend. If it was a normal competition, we would normally have anywhere from 12 to maybe 18 cars in one run group by speed index, not by class. So sometimes you will see a very fast enthusiast, not so often, maybe a street class competitor that finds their way into Group 1, which is traditionally our fastest 12 to 15 cars that usually will take the track first and then usually end the weekend. So here we got a little bit of a delta. You've got Scott running the 130.4. I think today was his quickest time. And then we've got, Jason, on the other end of the spectrum, the truck with Kevin Phillips, where I think he's trying to crack 150.
Right.
If I'm correct, hopefully I'm not discrediting him here. I don't know if he cracked 150 yet, but I don't think so. So, that's a decent delta right there to where if Scott decides to do a second flyer, he catches Kevin. Same thing with the AMG. With James Kirkham, if he goes on, if his car is able to do many flyers in a row, he ends up catching Kevin. So that's another thing that they have to contend with. It's not just an open track by themselves. A traditional super lap battle would be 1 car going out 1 time at a time and doing 1 hot lap, 1 warm up, 1 hot, 1 cool, and then come off the track. But I mean, that would take us. I've tried this. It takes so long to try to do a competition like that. We've just mixed it up a little bit and kind of, like I mentioned before, treat it almost like an action sports type format, to where you get X amount of sessions or heats per day and you're out there with a group. So you've got to, have some etiquette, and otherwise no one's going to give you any grace next time out there.
I'm with you. Well, what I'm interested to see in this one is what James Kirkham's done to his car since last time it went out, because I was speaking to him I was chatting to your drivers and chatting to you, and then we went across and we were chatting to James, and he was doing a bit of fettling on that AMG raw spec,
Nice.
and I think he was under the hood doing something with his sort of settings, just putting a bit more power. So he kind of
You'd love to see it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think James is going to come out, fist swinging in this one.
What I've noticed that he's been going quicker each session.
Yeah.
If you start looking at the practice sessions
Because
yesterday.
this, obviously, Scott Speed and the Subaru here, Project Midnight, this really should be the quickest thing around the track. Or, in terms of driver skill, the person who can get the most out of the car should be this guy. But I think James is sort of like getting his eye in and building up. So I think we could see something good in this session.
Another unique thing about Time Attack, we don't get many drivers of his caliber with us that often, but he has ran with us before with someone's program out of California, and actually in a front-wheel drive VW GTI a couple years back. He ran at our Buttonwillow event, which was super awesome to have him there. But that's another unique thing about the sport, that you might find yourself going up against the likes of Scott Speed, which is actually pretty amazing.
Take home.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's good. At least it's a story. Well,
Kind of don't mind.
Multiple rallycross and
Right.
Formula One, ex-Formula One driver. So green flags are waving. The time attack is underway. We're listening to Jason Deanhart, who is part of the global time attack. I'm really getting into this. I didn't know much about it, and I must admit, when I saw that Subaru had built their own 670 brake horsepower Subaru, put Scott Speed behind the wheel, I was like, that's not fair. But actually, Jason, we talked earlier today. Great advert for what you're trying to achieve.
Yes, 100%. Spot on. And this car will fit right into one of our normal competitions. Some of the quickest cars out there that run with us and other time attack events around the world, they would have kept up right with him this weekend. But we're also talking about cars that have not just 670 horsepower, but 1,200, 1,100, 900. That's what a lot of these people are doing. There's no horsepower limit in any of the classes, even enthusiast class.
What about boosting and that sort of stuff? I'm presuming that's outlawed.
No, it's open.
No.
No, the only thing that we regulate is nitrous. You're only allowed to have nitrous in the unlimited class if you want to. But to add a turbocharger, to add a
Elon Musk
supercharger.
showing up with one of his rockets.
Right. Hey, and even to talk about that, last year at Buttonwillow, the quickest car that took P1 overall, regardless of class, was an unlimited class, and it was a Tesla.
Wow.
Yeah, Unplugged Performance. They're out of Southern California. That's all that they do is race Teslas, and they put together one that also ran at Pikes Peak.
Yeah.
One of them, Randy Popes was driving one of the more streetable ones that they built. That actually he crashed, but was able to still, during practice, was able to still run it that year. So yeah, even electric cars. So same thing. We don't care about the power plant so much, especially in the unlimited class. Street class, enthusiast class, you have to have the same engine that came in the car, or at least from the same make and model.
Yeah.
So even electric power plants are allowed as well.
Yeah, and
That's
it's all very
interesting.
well saying, oh, power, but power is nothing without the controls, Borelli will tell you. But,
Yes.
that's the point, isn't it? Yokohama is what actually that Scott's running, just to be clear. But
Yeah, and I'm sure it's an AAO5, great tire,
Yeah.
very sticky. We've had a lot of experience with that tire. A lot of people run that in our series too. And their AO52 also is another hot tire in the street class and limited class too.
Now, here's Kirk, and he's right there with the Subaru. He's not far behind it, is he?
He's not, and he's on Michelin tyres there, who are supporting him this weekend, making it all possible. So he's going to be championing their cause.
Yeah, hopefully some of those tweaks that you saw him making.
He was, when I had a chat to him after I spoke to you, Jason, he was saying, well, I'm turning up a few things. I'm doing a few things with the
and that's the spirit of Time Attack.
It's
you're basically you're uncorked, especially in the class that he's in. So, lay it all out there.
Yeah, I don't know that he can somehow electronically just work out how much power he wants to give the thing, but I think he was basically turning the dial up to 10.
Well, he's certainly catching Scott Speed at a rapid pace as they come across the line again. We'll take a look at the times this time. Scott Speed and Subaru Motorsports from USA in that Project Midnight. James Kirkham in the Race Service AMG. And that was a slower lap. 32.6 by Speed, a 37.4 by James. So pretty darn close, to be honest. And Gabe Zamora doing a 139.5.
Nice. He's broke the 140s. That's great. Well, he was actually, I think, 137s earlier in the Porsche, which is very quick.
Pretty impressive.
So here's our guy that turned up to the track in his enthusiast car. I think the 874
that's definitely a production
BMW.
car. Yeah.
Yes.
Drove it to the circuit.
Yes, he sure did. Yeah, great. Gary Peterson. he's having a great time. This is something that he said was a bucket list event for him, not just the track, but the Velocity event and whatnot. I thought was
well, and also
great
as well,
to hear.
Chatting to all three of the guys that I spoke to down there, Kevin, Gabe, and Robert, they all just said, unbelievable, what an experience to be part of. How good to be, to come to be asked to race at Sonoma and be part of Velocity, and they were just grinning from ear to ear. I mean, like Gabe, for example, he's from Brazil, so he was really pleased to get an opportunity to chat to Tony Kanaan. He's like, I cannot believe I'm here.
Yeah,
that guy's my hero. And here I am.
That's
cool.
That's
awesome. That's great.
I'm wearing a driver's wristband, same as he is.
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
He was buzzing.
Our first time here is something I'm learning about this event is that there's a lot of amazing people here that you're able to rub elbows with, and that's real special.
It really is, and you walk around and just see them, and they're just there.
Yeah, so Cable Rosenberg here. This car started out, I believe, as a naturally aspirated 9-liter Viper.
Yeah.
Right?
Now he took it, he twin turbocharged it. This thing has, if needed, well over 1,200 horsepower. Yeah. This thing's ridiculous. He's never ran this track before. He was someone I talked about earlier. He's never even simmed it. He just watched some videos before showing up this weekend. So
no way.
His fastest time will probably come tomorrow at the end of the day, even though it should be tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
But he just needs more seat time here.
Well, Scott's speed just went quicker.
I believe it.
131.8.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, so what's surprising about that is that I was speaking to the Subaru guys earlier, and they were talking about kind of the chess game of time attack and when they were planning on really trying to go for a real serious hot lap. And they were talking about that's going to be tomorrow morning, that Scott and the team felt that their best time would be tomorrow morning to break that 130.4.
Okay.
So their plan was in this session to cruise. Whoa. So they're cruising at 132s. Cruising at 132s.
You're cruising.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the plan.
The plan on this one was not really to go for it. They felt that, it was just too warm.
And they think they can crack 130.
Tomorrow morning. That's the plan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Scott Speed heading out. And thanks, Kev. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, no, a pleasure. I'm being dragged off. I think I'm going to run around the pit and paddock a bit more. There's still some people here to talk to.
Go for it. We'll let you go. Thanks for coming in. But... yeah, this is really, of all of the racing I've seen this weekend, this has pricked my interest because I'd not seen in person. I'd heard of Time Attack, and I know they do it at COTA as well.
Yeah.
What do you think the future? Where would you like to see it? What would you like to change or develop, innovate, and see next?
One thing that we're working on are, more spectator-driven, friendly events.
Yep.
That's what our event at Circuit the Americas is in April. Last year we had about 8,500 spectators. It's not a ton of people, but it's for a Time Attack, that's probably the largest Time Attack in North America, to be honest with you. It takes being at a wonderful facility like that, also helps us in the middle of the country. Gives us the best opportunity for these people. They come from all over, Cable Rosenberg here in the Viper, he comes from, from Arizona. Gabe, I think that we're seeing on screen right now with the Porsche, is from Riverside, California, which isn't too far from here, but we've got fast drivers in Canada, Mexico, both sides of Canada, British Columbia, the East Coast. These people come from all over the place. So I'd like to grow that event. That's our flagship event.
Yep.
Other things that we have proven over the years, we were lucky to be able to be a part of the Long Beach Grand Prix back in 2021, I believe it was. So it was proof of concept there that we could join a major event like that as a support series with a smaller run group and put on a Time Attack for the fans out there. So that's something that we've looked into, trying to maybe get involved as a support series at other Indy events, at street courses around the country.
And also, I suppose as time goes on, the tracks will wake up to the Time Attack and start putting it in the records, because obviously whenever I go to a new track or a track, I look at the lap records from Wikipedia. Right. And it's always interesting to see, every different class has a different way of going about the same thing.
Yes.
From motorbikes to cars.
Right.
And so it's always interesting to see the differences at a Lime Rock or a COTA.
Yes.
And I'm sure Time Attack, as it progresses and probably there's more interest and more people like Scott Speed coming, and people will then try to take away that lap record of a production
you're
car.
You're chasing legends, you're chasing ghosts.
Yeah.
The thing is I'm going to be 50 in a few months, and I grew up with video games.
Yeah.
And whenever you played usually a car racing video game, you're basically time attacking.
Yes.
And that mindset carries over into this, to where you might be chasing. You talked about earlier. It's going to be 20 years of Time Attack at Buttonwillow coming up in November. And there's people that a certain car might be chasing a time from 10 years ago that they want to beat, and that's going to be their personal triumph. And it's another thing about this sport is, measuring up against legends at certain circuits. And sometimes you only visit a circuit once a year and with a major event, so there's a lot of pressure to do it that weekend. It's another thing that kind of adds a layer to the stress.
Well, there's no question that the Project Midnight folk at Subaru said, quite frankly, they've never built a car specifically for asphalt because they're a rally, the WRX is a rally car in the US as it is around the world.
Right.
And that's where Subaru made their name over the years. But this project, this car that Scott Speed is driving, was built specifically to do just this.
Yeah.
Try to attack tracks and try to get the best possible time with one of the best drivers in the world, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's a great mix to have someone like him driving a car at that level of build quality.
He's the perfect guy, too, because he's so adaptable to anything. We just saw Tony Kanaan doing his first Trans Am race. That was pretty adaptable, but most of these drivers are. But of all the drivers I know, Scott Speed, I've never seen. I never forget when he did his first Formula E race, and he just whipped it. And the whole field was there. The regular field had been doing it all season. He just came in and jumped in and won.
Yeah, let me show you how it's done.
It's impressive. I watched it in practice, the AMG. It sounds awesome.
It does. And it was great to hear that, they're making tweaks in the car. And again, that's the spirit of Time Attack. That's what it's all about is, throughout the day, how can we shave, any amount of time off? And he's not too far off from Scott, No,
it's very true. Well, officially on this run, like you say, we're expecting quicker runs tomorrow. No improvement from Scott Speed. Race service with a 138.2 with a 136.8 is the closest to him, and then it's 139.5 by the winner's circle, Gabe Zamora.
Yeah, I believe Gabe took third place earlier this year at our event at Circuit the Americas in the limited class. And this is another thing that we just witnessed right there. You can't just drive looking ahead, knowing that there's other people on track that might be coming up the rear end on a hot lap, and you've got to be aware.
You've got to be in your mirrors as well, yeah.
Correct, yeah. So, I talked about that it's an easy barrier of entry to get into Time Attack, but you have to be aware. You have to be a solid driver with some experience. You don't have to be a wheel-to-wheel racer, but you have to be aware on the track and be able to know that, that there's high closing speeds and, people are hanging it out there.
And the hours of preparation and getting ready for an event like this, that you don't want to be ruined by making a stupid mistake and then running into the back or possibly just avoiding and going off track to avoid a car that you're coming up on quickly. I think there's a fair amount of responsibility given the time and energy involved in getting ready.
Yes, most definitely.
Well, the sun is going down here in Sonoma, and we're coming to the end of our global Time Attack. Jason Dean Hart, giving us a really interesting insight into this relatively new form. Not for him, perhaps, but for some of us, this is new. And it's another BMW.
The interesting thing about, it's great to see Subaru, and it's been, great to talk to some of the team members this weekend out here. It's been a joy. An interesting fact is that, my 20 years of being involved in Time Attack, many times Subarus are the leaders, in the classes or, take podium, and it's been like that for many, many years. Great platform, even though, they've very well known for gravel. They've done very well in Time Attack over the past 20 years, people with Subarus. Very well.
That doesn't surprise me. It really doesn't. So tomorrow morning, what time are we on tomorrow?
I believe it's early again.
Yeah, and that's why we're saying that could be the time when we get
to... I think it's... I'm going to have to double check.
Yeah, Time Attack, 8:55.
Is it 8:55?
Yeah,
okay.
So that's... Yep.
Yeah, so that's probably going to be... The weather will probably be like in the high cooler. 60s, 70s at the warmest, most likely at that time. It doesn't get hot till about 11.
And while I'm doing a bit of housekeeping, don't forget Tyler Florence doing a cooking live demo and book signing. She did one today, a celebrated chef on the Food Network. and Tyler Florence, sharing her tricks of the trade in the kitchen and putting on a bit of a demonstration. So don't miss out on that. Of course, we've got the F1 esports simulators are also plenty of sip and saver opportunities. Lots of vendors around serving food. There's the checkered flag for our time attack. And like I said, they'll be back in action tomorrow morning again. But my thanks to Jason Deanhart for coming in here. Are you going to come back tomorrow morning and join us again?
I will be back with a cup of coffee.
Yeah, come on by. All right, we're going to take a short break and we're going to wrap it all up after this.